In the stock market, Jamaica and Barbados are up while Trinidad is down. Tech Bytes talks digital divide, employment automation, and the society. Elton Anderson on Belize men's volleyball and Suzette Zayden, our innovator, talks about the business of the film industry. I'm Destiny Wagner, and this is Legacy Markets. Good night and welcome to Legacy Markets. I will be your host for a weekly show, the newest source for intelligent and unbiased coverage of money, business, and the economy, both at home and in the Caribbean region. We will be looking at Belize and the region's tech industry in the segment Tech Bytes with our special contributor, Janine Hamilton. And we will have weekly discussions on the synergy of business and sports. Now we join analyst and co-host Abby for the weekly business headlines and the latest news on the Caribbean stock markets.
The Jamaican Stock Exchange advanced by 4 basis points from the previous trading week. The top two winners were Jamaica Public Service Company, up by 11%, and Epley Caribbean Property Fund, up by 10%. The top two losers were Key Insurance Company Limited, down by 15%, and Epley Preferred Shares, down by 11%. Gary Pert, the fund manager of Mayberry Jamaican Equities, MJE, encourages investors amidst expectations of interest rate reductions in 2024. MJE recorded a $33 million profit for 2022, but encountered a $14 million loss in the third quarter of 2023. So, if you're a shareholder of that firm, this might not be good news. In Trinidad, Agostini's Limited has declared a dividend of $1.10 per share, establishing a record date of December 29, 2023, with shareholders anticipated to receive their payments on February 1, 2024. On the downside, however, the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange declined by 70 basis points from the previous trading week. The top two winners were JMMB Group Limited, up by 4%, and Agostini's Limited, up by 50 basis points. The top two losers were Angostura Holdings Limited, down by 15%, and the West Indian Tobacco Company, which was down by 1%. The Barbados Stock Exchange advanced by 9 basis points from the previous trading week. The sole winner was Goddard Enterprises Limited, up by 2%, and our sole loser was Emerald Deposit Receipt, down by 1%. In Barbados news, the pressing issue of underfunded private pension plans demand immediate attention. Dr. Kevin Greenidge, the Central Bank Governor of Barbados, highlights that out of 248 registered occupational pension plans, 1/4 face underfunding concerns both as a going concern and on a solvency basis. And in Belize, our domestic bank rates, as of October 2023, mortgage rates stood at 7%. This is an increase by 26 basis points from a year ago, and our term deposits declined by 5 basis points to fall to 2.1%. So that's it for the stocks and our headline news. Destiny, back to you.
Thanks, Abigail. Now for a brief commercial, but when we return, more on the economy.
Legacy Fund will change Belize from small-scale municipal improvement projects to national infrastructural advancement. Unsightly playgrounds, derelict buildings, unsafe bridges, poor housing choices will become a thing of the past. How will this happen, you ask? Well, with the right partners, of course, but not the ones you're thinking of. Legacy is not looking at traditional financial institutions. We will build this transformation with you, the everyday hard-working Belizean citizen. The hairdresser, the tour guide, the fruit vendor at the market. Using the market and innovative financial tools, Legacy brings you and Belize the financial solution to grow your wealth for you and your community. Contact us and find out how you can be a part of this exciting new Belize that we build. Call 822-1794 or email client services at legacyfundlimited.com. People, capital, innovation. Legacy Fund Limited.
Thanks for joining us on Legacy Markets. This show is centered on finance and the economy, and tonight we want to talk briefly about some of the key issues currently affecting the country. Today, we are talking about sugar. The sugar industry is one of the largest contributors to the country's agricultural output. In 2022, the Belize sugar industry produced approximately 179,000 metric tons of sugar, a minor growth of 0.9% from the previous year. The controlled retail price of brown sugar is 50 cents per pound and 75 cents per pound for white sugar. In September, reports surfaced about a shortage of brown and white sugar in Belize, gaining significant attention in October, where the sugar shortage was particularly pronounced in the western and southern areas of the country. Reports highlight the challenge of controlling the volume of sugar crossing borders through various channels, including distributors, grocery stores, and both locals and foreigners. To gain a deeper insight into the impact of this sugar shortage, we have in our studio Dr. Philip Castillo, and joining us on a Zoom call is Mr. Sean Chavarria, Director of Finance at BSI ASR. So welcome, gentlemen.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Thanks for having me.
So the first question is this the first incident where a sugar shortage has occurred in Belize?
No, it isn't. I've been with the company 18 years now, and this is the third time I've encountered this situation during my time here. And when it's been observed, it's because of two things. One, we either see sugar prices in our neighboring countries is much higher than it is in Belize, or two, or the sugarcane crops in our neighboring countries saw a significant reduction and therefore a shortage in these markets. And so what we're seeing in this year is actually a combination of both factors, particularly in Mexico. Mexico saw a significant reduction in their crop. Their average is around 5.8 million. This past crop, it reduced to around 5 million tons of sugar. And so that's a massive reduction in their production. And what it resulted in is a significant increase in sugar prices across the border. Now you combine that with the fact that in Belize, we have a price control for both plantation white and brown sugar. And those control prices are significantly below what is obtained in the neighboring countries. So it creates this incentive for traders to come here to Belize to buy the sugar that is cheaper, and even with the additional transportation costs, they can make a profit by selling it in these markets. So we're seeing it this year. We've seen it around 2014-15 and around 2011. At that time, the price of sugar had increased as well, and the prices in Belize were much lower than the market prices. So it's not the first time we've seen it in Belize. And I think unless we change the way the pricing structure that currently exists in Belize for sugar, until that changes, we will continue to see this happen in the future.
Okay, thank you so much for your insight. And you mentioned about people crossing the borders and purchasing our sugar here because it is a bit more economical to purchase in the country of Belize. But what is the extent of the problem of cross-border purchases contributing to the documented sugar scarcity in Belize? And which districts will experience a greater impact from the shortage?
Where we initially heard the reports first was in the western and southern district. And that makes sense because of its proximity to the western border with Guatemala. But even more in the last few weeks and last couple of months, we've seen that push up to the Belize district and now even in two northern districts where in shops in Corozal and Orange Rock are also complaining that they can't get the sugar. So again, it just shows you that where demand exceeds supply and there is sufficient margin for people to make a profit, they will find the product. They will find a way to get their hands on that product because the trade is lucrative for them. As a comparison, an equivalent 25 kilo bag that we sell here is 38 Belize dollars. It currently fetches a price of around 88 dollars in Mexico, and so you have a margin of about $50 per bag to make by selling it across the border. And so that's a lucrative amount for traders, and that is what causes the incentive for them to come here because they can buy so much cheaper and then sell it for a higher profit across the border. So the underlying problem is that we have a price control for a product which is selling well below the market price. And the one that is even more pronounced is brown sugar. You mentioned that the price control is 50 cents. Actually, it's lower. The price control is 39 cents. So what we sell the sugar for here at the mill is 34 cents. But I know in most places in Belize, the minimum price that you will see brown sugar being sold for is around 50 cents per pound. And so that shows you the extent of the margins that people are making for brown sugar. White, yes, is more closer in terms of what we sell it here at 66 cents versus the retail control price of 75 cents. So there's a smaller margin to play with. But now that white sugar is selling for much higher across the border, then even white sugar, you're seeing shortage in the marketplace.
Okay, so you mentioned supply and demand. So would it be feasible to just increase the supply of sugar to meet the local demand?
It's not that simple because if you think about it, Mexico is a market of 5 million tons of sugar. And the two mills combined in Belize produce around 180,000 sugar. So that is a massive market that we have across the border that is, in a sense, dragging the sugar. So producing more won't fix the problem. What has to be fixed is the price control that currently exists. In the case of brown sugar, the price has been fixed for 23 years. I mean, that's a really long time. Inflation has been cumulative over that time, maybe close to 40%, yet the price of sugar in Belize hasn't moved for 23 years. The last increase for plantation white was done in January of 2016. And in that year, when the price was adjusted, you saw a reduction of around 30% in sales to the market. So that shows you the extent at that time of how much sugar was probably leaking across the borders, because again, the price here in Belize was so much lower than neighboring countries. So we do see what has taken place before. When there is a correction in price, it stops that leakage that occurs, and then the market becomes more balanced. It's more reflective of what the true demand for sugar is in Belize.
Okay, so what support is needed to make sure that the market is balanced and to address the issue of sugar scarcity?
I think definitely the price needs to reflect what are the market conditions and more closer to market prices. And in the case of white and brown sugar, they continue to be well below market prices, and brown sugar much even lower than raw sugar, which is not a value-added product. So that is the first thing that needs to take place. The prices need to be increased so that it's more reflective of the true market price for the product. Things that we can do here from the factory end, but again would need government support, is that we could have the ability to package the sugar in retail. And if we package it in retail with our labeling that says it's produced by BSI, produced in Belize, that makes it more difficult for the traders to come here and purchase that sugar and sell it across the border. Because if it's one thing buying it in industrial, which they can use in different processes, but it's another thing buying it in a retail. You can't buy this retail sugar and then go across the border and sell it in the supermarkets, because that's when it will, in a sense, be picked up by the authorities. So packaging in retail is another solution, but again, to facilitate that, the price control would have to be removed so that we can recover the cost of the additional packaging to make it increase the value added component of the product.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Chavaria, and I, for one, am definitely learning a lot about the sugar industry. Unfortunately, we do need to take a break right now, but when we come back, we will have a conversation with Dr. Philip Castillo, lecturer at the University of Belize, to give us an economic analysis of the sugar situation. So, don't go away.
Are you interested in diversifying your investment portfolio while maintaining a low-risk profile? Are you the smart, sophisticated investor that is seeking greater interest return on your investments while investing in your city? If you are, then you should invest in the Belize City Council's municipal securities. The Belize City Council offers both short and long-term securities that are attractive financial market options, which provides the investor with greater social added value satisfaction. You ask why? Because your investment in the securities are reinvested back into the growth and development of your city by way of infrastructural development, streets and drainage construction, parks, playgrounds, bridge rehabilitation, and much, much more. Let's look at the key features of municipal securities. First, they are tax-free. This means more of your money stays with you. You will enjoy greater interest yield without any tax deductions. Second, our interest rates of 4.5% on municipal papers and 8% on municipal bonds easily surpasses current financial institutions' interest rates on savings. Municipal securities are also a great investment in your retirement. The faster your money grows, the faster you reach your retirement fund goals. The municipal paper and the municipal bond are both tradable and transferable investments. This means that investors can get their money back before the maturity date by selling their securities to a third party. Lastly, investing in municipal papers offers investors a steady stream of income. You will receive your full interest earned on a quarterly basis until the maturity of the paper. To learn more about the Belize City Council's municipal securities and how you can invest in your city, call our financial advisor, Alpha Capital LLP, at 822-1794. Email at securitiestrade1@alphacapital.bz or give us a call at 227-3073. Your Belize City Council, always about the people.
Welcome back. In studios, we have Dr. Philip Castillo, economist and lecturer at the University of Belize. So thanks for joining us to talk about sugar.
Thank you.
So Dr. Castillo, culturally, this is the time for us to be baking for the holidays. Christmas is coming up as well as New Year's, so the pastry industry is booming. So we would like to know your opinion on the sugar scarcity.
Well, Sean has explained to us the reason why. We have huge countries to the north and south of us, with large populations buying substantially greater quantities of sugar. Guatemala's population is around 16 or 17 million. Mexico's population is well over 100 million. And what we're hearing from Sean is that those countries, the sugar production fell in those countries, and then they're demanding sugar and they're making it up from contraband products from Belize. I see that as a huge problem. But in the short run, there's very little that Belize can do, because if there's an incentive for Belizean sugar to be sold in Guatemala and Mexico, I see that continuing.
Okay, so as an economist, do you see a chance for BSI and sugar producers to collaborate with relevant authorities to address the reported sugar activity?
Well, from what I'm hearing, to the best of my knowledge, BSI is already collaborating with the government, meaning that BSI would inform government about the quantities being produced, and government knows that. But what needs to happen, I would think, is that, as BSI noted, for sugar to be contrabanded effectively, basically, you have to move in bulk. It makes no sense to move very small quantities of sugar. So then I would think that BSI has to be authorized to retail sugar in smaller packages, and that makes it more difficult to move. Now, obviously, that has a cost component. So as we were told earlier, the cost of sugar in Belize is artificially very low. That has to change. So there has to be a change in the price of sugar for there to be any meaningful situation, any meaningful moves to address the current situation.
Okay, so everyone thus far is talking about the price and the price increase. So who would ultimately be in charge of increasing the price of sugar?
Well, consumers pay all final price increases. It goes back to the consumer because the current price, it's a controlled price. And the aim of price controls is to keep prices artificially low for the consumer. Sugar features a whole lot in Belize's what we call the basket of goods and services that measure inflation. Sugar is a major component in that basket. So obviously if the price of sugar changes, then the basket changes, then inflation in Belize changes. But then that has to happen because what's happening is that with the price being kept artificially low, then the supplies are non-existent. So the only way to make the supplies available locally is to increase prices.
Okay, so let's say the sugar price does increase. How might these adjustments impact government revenues or GST?
There's bound to be an impact. Sugar, I think, won't impact GST or government revenues because I don't think sugar pays GST, meaning that there are some products that are zero rated, and I think sugar would be zero rated. So that shouldn't impact GST. What it would impact, though, is that sugar is an input in a broad range of products. You started by speaking about pastries and the other goodies, and so sugar is an input in that. Those pay GST. So it means that, yes, GST would increase. GST would, the take from GST would increase because these products are now being produced with sugar, which costs more.
Okay, so your professional opinion, we would love to know what recommendations or policy you would recommend to solve the sugar scarcity.
You want government response to be grounded in economics. What I've been hearing is that they want to put the BDF on the border, or to add to the responsibilities of the BDF on the border to assist in minimizing or reducing contraband. I do not see that as a sustainable solution. What I see as a sustainable solution is that you increase the price of the commodity. And then, with government's increased intake or revenue from that commodity, government can then ensure that sugar becomes a part of the pantry. Right now, government provides a pantry to Belizeans who are below the poverty rate, the poverty level. So you could include sugar in that pantry. In that way, the price goes up, but then the Belizeans who could afford the price pay the increased price, and those who can't, then government would subsidize them by putting sugar as a part of the current pantry that it provides to persons who are below the poverty line.
Okay, so let's say that GOB considers purchasing sugar from our neighboring CARICOM countries and we would resell it to Guatemala and Mexico, hypothetically speaking. What would be the implications if this were to happen?
Well, I wouldn't want to go that far because, as BSI has told us, the quantities of sugar they produce can supply the local market. So based thereon, Belize would not want to import sugar from anywhere else because importing sugar would be a strain on our scarce foreign exchange. We can produce sugar, we are producing sugar. What we want to do is to ensure that the sugar we are producing in Belize, there's sufficient amount for Belizeans. And that is possible with a change in economic policies.
Okay. So what do you propose to prevent similar occurrences of the sugar market?
You have to focus on price. The price has been kept artificially low for too long, and that has to change. When you change a price that has been kept artificially low for such a long period of time, they are likely to be losers. And then government now has to find a way to assist those losers, particularly those that are poor.
So from both of our interviewees right now, they both agreed that the price needs to increase in order for us to prevent the sugar scarcity as well as meet the local demand. This conversation has been good, but we do need to take a break. So thank you, gentlemen, for joining us, and let's see what the new year brings to the sugar industry. When we return, we will be joined by Ms. Janine Hamilton with another segment of Tech Bytes.
Welcome to City Pulse by your Belize City Council. Join us on an exciting journey through the heart of Belize City, where we showcase the transformative initiatives shaping our resilient community. Our commitment to the people is unwavering, and our city's progress is built on solid foundations. At the beginning of this year, we pledged to rehabilitate 90 streets. Proudly, we've completed 71 streets, or 36,431 linear feet, which accounts for an impressive 78% of our commitment. The Council has made significant progress. Among these, 23 have been concreted, 26 have undergone rehabilitation using the chip and seal method, and an additional 22 streets have been further enhanced, being filled or topped up with materials such as hardcore or all-in, demonstrating our commitment to improving our city's infrastructure. But we're not stopping there. We've identified 41 more streets that need our attention. We are projected to meet 100% of our 90 street commitment 2 months ahead of schedule, accounting for an unprecedented 54,829 plus linear feet of road rehabilitation completed within the last 10 months. This transformation is fueled by a $6.9 million budget allocation, with 59% coming from municipal papers, 41% from the Council's operations, and support from our valued partners. Stay connected with City Pulse and witness the journey of a brighter, more connected Belize City. We're committed to your future. This People's United Party City Council is always about the people.
Welcome back. We're joined again this week by Janine Hamilton, the Chief Technology Officer at Legacy Fund Limited. We explore the impact of technology on society, touching on the digital divide, automation's impact on employment, and tech's role in addressing social issues. So welcome back, Janine. So last week we had an exciting conversation about digital currency, and it's amazing to hear that Belize is not staying too far behind. But I was thinking about the digital divide, a term that may interest our viewers. Can you go into depth about that term?
Sure. Hello again, Destiny. So the digital divide is really just the gap between those who have access to technology and those who do not. However, access is one thing. So there's two parts to the digital divide. There's the access divide and there's the usage divide. So if you do have access to technology such as internet at home or in a shared space, and you have access to a computer or some type of device, the other part of it is, if you do have the access, then do you have the necessary skills to actually use the technology? So that's where the usage disparity comes in as well. Anyone who may have limited access to both, whether it's the access divide or the usage divide, they would not be able to participate in our digital economy, meaning they would not be able to access information using technology, and also like healthcare, banking, and so on.
So in your professional opinion, what do you think is the underlying reason for the digital divide, and how can we narrow that divide or narrow that gap in Belize?
I think that there's three main ones. I think in infrastructural issues, we still have where there are areas that do not have access to internet or high-speed internet. As well, you have digital literacy, which is really just a skill set to be able to use technology. And then there's social economic issues. many of our households are still really running on like $150, $200 per week, which is like $800 per month. And if our cheapest internet package is $49, then how many of them can really afford that on a monthly basis?
Okay, thank you for your opinion. I can see how those can affect the digital divide. I do have to ask about employment automation, though. Can you describe what that is to our viewers and tell us whether or not you're in favor for that or oppose?
Sure. So employment automation is really just the use of technology, which is artificial intelligence, AI. I'm sure you've been hearing about that a lot.
Yes, definitely.
So it's AI, softwares, robotics to do the work that a human being would normally do. I am for it. It streamlines processes. It reduces costs, and it also, helps a company to operate more efficiently. So I am for it.
I, for one, definitely utilize AI as an entrepreneur, but how can we get people in our communities ready for the changes caused by artificial intelligence or automation?
Well, I think some of the implications that we will see, and I don't know how far along it's going to be, because it really depends on how how our workforce, I should say, adapts to new technology. But I think some implications are going to be job displacement, change in work patterns, such as if you used to work full-time, you may only be needed for a part-time period, which would lead to some, salary inequalities. So those are some of the implications that I see, and I think how we can help to mitigate some of those is to offer training. We need to focus on our workforce, really upskilling them so that they would be able to participate in the new type of employment opportunities that would be out there.
Thank you, Janine. So given your enthusiasm on technology, do you believe that it can be used to combat some societal issues, perhaps poverty, hunger?
Yeah, definitely. So in many countries, we have seen great progress with technologies that they're using for social issues. For instance, in healthcare, you have technologies where you can get on a call with a doctor and he can completely check you out. So this is good for like rural areas where there might not be clinics available, or it's too far to get to the nearest clinic and so on. There's also in education where you have e-learning platforms where students are able to access education and also different types of learning tools that they might not have within their community as well. So they're not left out just because maybe it's too far to travel, or the type of learning tools or education is not within their community. And like we spoke about on our last show, there's the digital wallets, which really brings to financial inclusion. There's the offering of like insurance policies, pension funds, investment opportunities that would help people to really take themselves out of poverty. And so yes, in a nutshell, yes.
Okay, so you mentioned you mentioned people being left out, correct? And how can we ensure that people aren't getting left out and that technology is not only being fair, but inclusive to all Belizeans across the board?
Well, I think for that, it takes collaboration with individuals, the community at large, and also the policymakers. We need good policies in place that would ensure that it's not being biased, and it's harnessing an environment for innovation and entrepreneurship, because that is what we need, meaning that the jobs of tomorrow, that is what we will be faced with. And so from now, we need to start training our workforce, but also collaborating so we would know what we are actually preparing for.
I completely agree with you. And though Belize is small, we are definitely mighty, so it is important that we continue to keep up when it comes to technology. Yeah. Well, Janine, thank you so much for being here today. and for chatting with us. We look forward to having another conversation with Janine Hamilton next week. But for now, we must take a break, but join Abby with the business of sports when we return. Stay tuned.
Legacy Fund will change Belize from small-scale municipal improvement projects to national infrastructural advancement. Unsightly playgrounds, derelict buildings, unsafe bridges, poor housing choices will become a thing of the past. How will this happen, you ask? Well, with the right partners, of course, but not the ones you're thinking of. Legacy is not looking at traditional financial institutions. We will build this transformation with you, the everyday hard-working Belizean citizen. The hairdresser, the tour guide, the fruit vendor at the market. Using the market and innovative financial tools, Legacy brings you and Belize the financial solution to grow your wealth for you and your community. Contact us and find out how you can be a part of this exciting new Belize that we build. Call 822-1794 or email clientservices@legacyfundlimited.com. People, capital, innovation. Legacy Fund Limited.
Are you interested in diversifying your investment portfolio while maintaining a low-risk profile? Are you the smart, sophisticated investor that is seeking greater interest return on your investments while investing in your city? If you are, then you should invest in the Belize City Council's municipal securities. The Belize City Council offers both short and long-term securities that are attractive financial market options, which provides the investor with greater social added value satisfaction. You ask why? Because your investment in the securities are reinvested back into the growth and development of your city by way of infrastructural development, streets and drainage construction, parks, playgrounds, bridge rehabilitation, and much, much more. Let's look at the key features of municipal securities. First, they are tax-free. This means more of your money stays with you. You will enjoy greater interest yield without any tax deductions. Second, our interest rates of 4.5% on municipal papers and 8% on municipal bonds easily surpasses current financial institutions' interest rates on savings. Municipal securities are also a great investment in your retirement. The faster your money grows, the faster you reach your retirement fund goals. The municipal paper and the municipal bond are both tradable and transferable investments. This means that investors can get their money back before the maturity date by selling their securities to a third party. Lastly, investing in municipal papers offers investors a steady stream of income. You will receive your full interest earned on a quarterly basis until the maturity of the paper. To learn more about the Belize City Council's municipal securities and how you can invest in your city, call our financial advisor, Alpha Capital LLP, at 822-1794. Email at securitiestrade1@alphacapital.bz or give us a call at 227-3073. Your Belize City Council, always about the people.
Welcome back. Today we're diving into the world of volleyball. The Belize Volleyball Association was formed in the early 1980s and became affiliated with the Federación Internacional de Voleibol in 1984. Belize attended its first international tournament with male and female teams at the 1990 Central American Games in Tegucigalpa, Honduras, and has participated in the Central American Games ever since. One can argue that St. Catherine Academy has placed volleyball on the national consciousness of Belize with its stellar dominant women's volleyball team. The SCA volleyball team has won 14 consecutive National Secondary Schools Sports Association volleyball championships. Some international successes of Belize's volleyball teams include winning bronze at the Central American Games in 1997, the men's national team placing third in the World Championship qualification tournament in 2016, the women's team placing second at the Central American Championship, and Belize winning gold in the Norseca Continental Tour in 2016. Belize also won silver at the Central American Championship in 2000. This summer, the Belize Volleyball Association hosted the Central American Men's Volleyball Championship in August, and Belize ranked third. Elton Anderson was the captain leading the men on the court, and he is here today to talk a little bit about the business of volleyball. Welcome, Elton.
Thank you very much, Ms. Harvey. I would just like to add a little insert. St. Catherine is now at 28 consecutive championship, and SJC we're making our own mark with 6 consecutive straight championships.
Wow. Thanks for that correction, Mr. Elton. But I'm glad to know that as an alumni of SCA, I'm glad to see our team still leading on volleyball. So this summer brought 2 tournaments to Belize volleyball. There was the men's and females volleyball tournaments. I know you were working hard as the team captain on the national team. So can you give us your perspective on preparing for the game physically, financially, and so on?
Well, preparing for the game physically, it was a bit rough. We had 2 training sessions on court, one in the morning from 6 to 8 and the other in the night from 6 to 9 p.m. Most of us had 3 sessions because during the lunch period we would go to do our strength training at Body 2000. So we did as much as we can. The coaching staff had a wonderful training plan, and we executed perfectly.
Sounds like it was very grueling on your body, no? Physically.
Yeah, it took a toll, but at the end, receiving a medal, we believe it was worth it.
So let's take a look at volleyball at the national level. How would you define Belize's volleyball? Would you say that it's at an amateur level right now, or would you say that we're on our way, or we're at the semi-professional level?
Well, I honestly believe we're at the semi-professional level. When we were at the amateur level, that was about 5-6 years ago when we just showed up at tournament and all team just wanted to play Belize first because they consider it as an easy win. Now we're winning medals consecutively now. We have a number of guys in America playing ball, so now we're at that semi-professional level that nobody really wants to play Belize now.
So we're now starting to become the champions, the ones that they're going to fear.
Yeah, well, that's what we want. Our main goal right now is to try to dethrone the reigning champs in Central America, which is Guatemala. They have been winning consecutively for about 20 straight years in the male.
Okay. What are some of the obstacles that you see when it comes to creating a professional league for volleyball?
Well, one of the main issues is finance. A professional league is somewhat $150,000 to run a league. I say that because I know some figures from the basketball league, being that I have some friends that own a team. We would like to see a Belize elite volleyball league, but we know that we're getting there. It won't happen overnight. It starts with the little national tournaments that we're having. Every country or every district in Belize now has the right to host a national. So with the help of venues being built in these municipalities, we can now think about a Belize Elite Volleyball League.
Okay, let's say that we were able to remove the financial barrier, right? And we can create this league for volleyball. What would you say that there would be a league separate for women's volleyball and one separate for men's male volleyball, or would it be a league for both women and men?
Well, I would like to see a league for both men and female. I believe the female deserve just as much as us. They're doing as well as the guys are doing, and I believe having a dual tournament will have a significant impact on the sport as opposed to just being one-sided.
Okay. Talking about volleyball at a professional level, we know that there are several players that have received opportunities to play professionally or get professional qualification or experiences such as yourself. And so what percentage of players do you think have received opportunities to play professionally, and what do you think accounts for this scenario?
Well, there's only a handful of players that have been granted the opportunity to play internationally. I have only known of one so far, Mr. Brighton Cad, who received an opportunity to play in Finland in the professional league. And I believe with his stellar performance in Central America and improving year after year after year, scouts saw him while we were in Costa Rica, and they gave him a shot, and the shot that he got, he paved the way for other guys coming up. We don't have anybody, I believe, getting paid, but we have over 12 athletes in America, 2 in Canada, receiving full scholarship to play volleyball. So we're hoping that one of those guys make that jump.
Yeah, we truly hope to see him reach that far. Speaking about our volleyball players, who represents the players in these volleyball tournaments, and do you think that our volleyball players are well represented?
Well, as far as I know, the players represent themselves. Just in the case of Brighton, when you go international, you have to have that, what we call your agent, right? When you go international, you have your agent, but when you go right to America to play, it's just the federation and your family that helps you to make that jump.
Okay. We also know that you're one of the founders of the EA Volleyball Academy. Tell us about the academy and the work you have been putting into the academy as you prepare to start some of these tournaments.
Well, in relation to the academy started during the COVID. It might sound bad, but we started during the COVID. It was a reality. I was an employee at the Stars Volleyball Gym, which Mr. Peter Kwanzon, a wonderful volleyball gym, and we had a male program there. So when Corona came, it was a bit challenging for her to maintain both groups, and I had the opportunity to form something of my own with the help of wonderful parents and the kids that were already with me at the Stars Volleyball Gym. So it was an easy transition for me, and I must say a huge thank you to St. John's College for opening up the gym to me. Most of the kids that I teach right now are from St. John's College, and through the academy we're doing wonderful things. Every year we get 2 international scholarships through the academy. We're just blessed to get kids to go to America. Right now we're on after school program. Mm-hmm. So when school is out at 3:30, the kids come over to the gym and they train all the way until 5:30. Now the after school programs are finished tomorrow, and then we're going straight into the Christmas program. So we have Christmas program, Easter program, summer program, so we don't really take break. And that is one of the keys to being a successful athlete, right? No days off.
Yeah, the grind is always.
Always.
Yeah. So you mentioned the Christmas program, the Easter program. Besides the ones that you have mentioned, is there what can we expect next year from the EA Volleyball Academy as well as National Volleyball? And is there anything that the viewers at home should jot down into their calendar?
Well, next year is a huge year. It's not only for EA Volleyball, it's for the entire country of Belize. This year is what you call the year of the adults. So next year is the year of the youth, everything under 21 and below. So we're hoping that we have a huge representation on the national teams. Most of the guys, we're expecting a lot of EA guys to go and work out for this team and hopefully make the team. I'm blessed to be a part of the coaching staff for the U17, the U19, and the U21. So traveling and coaching the kids every day and then being their coach at the international level is something we're looking forward to.
And just a quick question, who funds that?
The international tournament?
Yes.
So the international tournament is funded by the Belize Volleyball Association. The Belize Volleyball Association is not blessed like the Football Federation, who has this huge international fever bucketive behind it. So our president is always reaching out to the business people, right? We have sometimes that we do little drives to raise fund, And then we're just blessed with a lot of wonderful parents who contribute. What I would like to see is the government do more for sports. Right? When I say do more for sports, offer more scholarship to these kids, you know, to have them not burden themselves. So that's my take on that, to have the government to do more. Right?
And is it a challenge to really get the support from the government to fund or support these tournaments?
Well, an international tournament like the one that was held here is almost $500,000. So you're looking at one federation to source all that. Luckily this summer, the government intervened, both Minister Mala from the Tourism Ministry and the Minister of Sport, Mr. Ferguson. They came through and blessed the federation with a little donation, and a lot of the business people came on board, and I believe it was a win-win for everybody.
Well, Coach, this has been an excellent conversation, but we do need to wrap up this segment, and so I'd like to thank you for joining us today, and I can't wait to hear more from the EA Academy.
And we at EA would like to thank you guys for having us, and we're waiting for the next opportunity to come and share more volleyball with you all.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
When we come back, Destiny will be sitting with our Innovator of the Week.
Welcome to City Pulse by your Belize City Council. Join us on an exciting journey through the heart of Belize City, where we showcase the transformative initiatives shaping our resilient community. Our commitment to the people is unwavering, and our city's progress is built on solid foundations. At the beginning of this year, we pledged to rehabilitate 90 streets. Proudly, we've completed 71 streets, or 36,431 linear feet, which accounts for an impressive 78% of our commitment. The Council has made significant progress. Among these, 23 have been concreted, 26 have undergone rehabilitation using the chip and seal method, and an additional 22 streets have been further enhanced, being filled or topped up with materials such as hardcore or all-in, demonstrating our commitment to improving our city's infrastructure. But we're not stopping there. We've identified 41 more streets that need our attention. We are projected to meet 100% of our 90 street commitment 2 months ahead of schedule, accounting for an unprecedented 54,829 plus linear feet of road rehabilitation completed within the last 10 months. This transformation is fueled by a $6.9 million budget allocation, with 59% coming from municipal papers, 41% from the Council's operations, and support from our valued partners. Stay connected with City Pulse and witness the journey of a brighter, more connected Belize City. We're committed to your future. This People's United Party City Council is always about the people.
Welcome back, and thank you for tuning in to the Legacy Business Show. This program segment will showcase a Belizean entrepreneur making significant waves in the Belizean economy each week. These are forward-thinking individuals who are pushing boundaries and breaking barriers. This week, we continue seeing the fruits of the orange economy, where the Belize film industry is making waves. Last week, we spoke to Audrey Wallace about her challenges in the media. This week, Suzette Zayden goes a bit deeper and talks about a new industry in Belize, the film industry. Suzette Zayden is a Belizean film and TV producer recognized internationally as a passionate advocate for promoting Belizean, Caribbean, and Central American cinema via her brainchild, the Belize International Film Festival. So, Suzette, thank you so much for joining us here on Legacy Markets.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Can you tell us a bit more about your work in TV and film in Belize?
I started when I was about, in 1990, when I was about 18 years old, as an intern at Great Belize Productions. That was the parent company for Channel 5. The television station had not started yet. And so I got, it was kind of my summer before going off to study. And so I began working. I got fascinated with the idea of television. I was going to go do a journalism degree. And I did this internship, and I thought it looked a lot more exciting. Back then, the idea of journalism was you're going to go sit in a room and write, and you wouldn't see much people. It would be kind of maybe boring. Exciting on content on the paper, but not as exciting socially, I guess. And then during that year, I was also able to witness a foreign film production in Belize while I was doing that internship. And I thought it was huge. It was huge. It was like 30 people working on 16 seconds of a 30-second commercial. And I was like, wow, what kind of thing is this that so many people could be working? They clearly had higher budgets than what was being used in Belize at the time. And I was fascinated that it was a Mexican crew, and I was fascinated that they had come to Belize to shoot. And I wondered, what is it about Belize that is attracting them? And so throughout the years, I pursued that. I changed completely from journalism, and I started pursuing television first and then film, just to see what it was all about.
Wow, so it is currently 2023 going into 2024. You've been in this industry since 1990. I am not going to do the math, but I will say you're very experienced, obviously, within this industry. I know that you've been super busy with films, but can you tell us a bit more about some of the projects that you completed in Belize or any new concepts?
Okay, I spent most of the early years was working in what most people do here in TV and video production houses. I did commercials. I did ads. I did ads for products, for services, for the banks, for the financial services. I did ads for government departments. I did a lot of stuff with human services, community rehab. I saw a lot of social issues. And then I did a lot of work for the environmental community. So I was able to travel this entire country, film it from underwater aerials before drones. So we would rent a plane and take off the door, and that's how we shot aerials back then, and by land. So I was very lucky to have been able to participate in a lot of projects during my time before I actually branched out and started looking at film properly. And then I worked in broadcast TV as well. So I was part of the crew behind that would do the technical production of the news in the early days. And then I also worked with crime television, setting them up. And I was the head of production over at Bel Carib for a while. But then I went on, and I felt like there was something missing. I still had not seen that one time back in 1990 when I saw this big production come. And I was like, where is this? Where is this type of production? This very potentially lucrative type of production, because a person working in the media or in the video production in Belize, they would know that the budgets are not that high, and you're also expected to kind of do everything. You are expected to be the writer, the director, the producer, the camera person, the editor, and then I had this memory of a production where there was a camera person. There was there was like 2 assistant camera person. There was a producer. There were assistant production coordinators. There was a whole food section. It was like, wow, this is different. This is big. And so I finally found somewhere that I could go and study film production, and that was in Cuba. And I did that for 2 years. And I was lucky enough to go to this school where they were explaining to us that our objective was to return to our country and proceed to either strengthen the film industry or create one where it didn't exist. And in Belize, at that time, the film industry per se did not exist. And so it has been pretty much my goal for about since like 2001 to try and get that started.
So is there anything that Belizeans can be excited to hear about the film industry next year in 2024? Do you have any projects that are ongoing?
That's
give us some information here.
Okay, so so basically, what we started to notice when we started to push for the film industry was that studio films, back then studio films were a thing, and those would be the big budget films, but they would come like once every like 7 years. And so people did not really pay any attention to an industry that, brings about $1 million, but once every 7 years. And so there was the film commission that was put in place to try and attract more films. And so I worked there for a while. I'm not there anymore, but what we had noticed then was that what was coming were small productions. They would come like for 2 weeks, less than 30 days. But they would come, they would do survival type shows, they would do stuff like a lot of National Geographic, because Belize has such wonderful environmental assets. But the creative work was not like the fiction, the feature film was not quite there. It's not very common. But I would say in the last 2 years, there were some feature films back then, but they were very low budget. Maybe what you would call B films.
Okay.
And but they were being done. The budget was low, but it was a good training. It was a good opportunity for Belizeans to train, because when the budget is small, they're not as fussy about the skill levels that they are able to use. And so it was an opportunity for quite a few Belizeans to get their hands or their feet wet, so to speak. So now what happened is, this is an industry where relationships matter, where networks are made. You come once and you work with somebody, you will probably come back and call that same person again. And you build, that's how you build your network, right? And so what happened is, about 2 years ago, one of these producers from the B film era had gone on and also improved his conditions. And so he called me one day and he says, I'd like to do a film in Placencia. What do I do? I said, well, let's get started. And so I would say last year, we filmed a feature film for Hallmark called Caribbean Summer in Placencia. That's his company. His company, what they do, they're like a broker. So there are lots of these companies out there where the networks would call them and say, listen, we need some movies of the week. We need about 5 movies of the week. And so what they do is they pretty much produce it, and they will produce in Belize, they will produce in Mexico, they will produce in the Philippines, they'll produce anywhere. So you want to keep these people on your radar, because then if you treat them nice and you give them proper incentives, they will come back. But we were lucky enough, there are no incentives in place for any foreign productions right now. We were just lucky that this was someone who had been to Belize and knew, okay, you guys are flight 2 hours away. I noticed you start putting in direct flights from Canada. We can rent stuff, we can bring it, you're gonna make it easy, if your immigration and your customs are on board, it's gonna be smooth, That's what they're looking for. So, they balance it. Yes, we would like incentives, but if you can make it smooth enough and not be problematic, we will also come.
Yeah, based from my understanding, I know Belize, we don't have film rights right now, do we? Do we have film rights?
The film rights has nothing to do with that production.
Okay.
And film rights are a different, are you talking about copyright?
You mentioned incentives.
So fiscal incentives.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be, some countries offer a rebate. Like they would say, if you're going to spend $1 million in the country, their budget might be $3 million. But if you can guarantee me, it could be whatever figure we decide. It could be 500,000 US, or it could be 1 million US. If you can show me that you've spent 1 million, then we will give you a rebate. A rebate of 10%, 20%. Some countries go as far as 40%. And the government would have to decide, well, that's 60%, that's like 600, let's go with 1 million. That's like 600,000 money spent that would not have been spent. I don't mind giving back 40%, but then it's a little bit tricky because the accounting would have to be in place. The proof, the burden of proof, they don't get it right away. They would have to submit accounting and checks and stuff. But the beauty of fiscal incentives is then the country, us, would be able to call the shots on certain things.
Yeah, and besides calling the shots, it also gives Belizeans the chance to experience some sense of pride while seeing our country in movies.
Yeah, and no, but by calling the shots, I meant that they would have to say, you can only get this incentive if you are maybe doing a film that showcases so much, right? They can ask for certain things. In return for this, we want a very positive film. Or we don't do, horror is a genre that's out there. Not every tourist board likes the idea of using the country for horror.
Correct.
However, you have to decide if this is going to be a money-making venture. You have to just accept it's just a genre.
Okay, so besides budgeting and let's say a genre of horror or terror being filmed in our country, Belize, what other setbacks have you experienced or faced within the film industry?
Well, those aren't even really setbacks because there's no fiscal incentives and so everything's fair game. The setbacks are the fact that we have never put a film law in place.
Okay.
There is no legislation that says Belize believes in film, and so let me give you a fiscal incentive and you can now go over to Beltrade and find it right there amongst all the other incentives. There is nothing. And at one point we had spoken to Beltrade many years back, and Beltrade had mentioned, and we had passed on this message, is unless you can show me a legal document, I cannot officially put you down in the list of incentives. And so we had been lobbying back then for years to put together a film law, get the legislation passed, actually recognize the Film Commission. The Film Commission isn't even recognized legally. It's just there.
Oh, wow.
And so nothing is, there's the Broadcasting Authority, there's such and such commission, but it's like a joke. Come on, guys, we're talking orange economy. Mm-hmm. We have to get serious. We have to, in order to proceed, besides the fact that the law isn't there, it means that agreements are not official. Agreements between, let's say, even with customs and immigration, they're like handshake agreements. Mm-hmm. And so it causes a lot of stress because we do something called kind of like equipment waiver when films are coming in. Like we allow, it's kind of between customs and stuff. If a film company is coming in, they can come in provided they have like a memo from finance saying that we know that this film is coming in. However, it's not really unofficial. It's not really a temporary pass. It's not the official temporary pass. And so you run into problems depending on which immigration official is at the border.
But what you're basically saying is there's no real protocol.
There's no real protocol that I can go to and say, here it is in the law, or here it is here. It depends on who's at the desk and who do you know. And it's messy. It's messy. It should not be like that. It should just be smooth.
Okay, so what do we need to do to make sure that that transition is smooth or that process is smooth between the next 5 to 10 years? What can we do, or what do you recommend?
Well, we need to get the legislation passed. We need to do discussions between those who are actually working on the ground and those who pass legislation. Because the film industry, that is the part that makes the money, that would make the film industry look appealing to the legislators, the international productions that come here and film. Because these companies that come into this country bring money to spend. They're not taking any money out. They're just bringing money. They're just injecting capital in because they're coming here just to make the film and go back. And then you also have the local creatives. So we also, within that law, has to take into effect that there are people like Colorblind. Mm-hmm. There are other production companies. I have my own production company for the Lance as well. And we are creating local content. So the legislation cannot only be looking at incentives for the foreigners that are coming to shoot here. It also has to look at incentives for the local people to make stuff. And then there's the issue of copyright. That's a whole another question if you want me to go there.
Well, unfortunately, we are running out of time, Ms. Suzette, but thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you so much for your contributions to the film industry and the orange economy. And that's it for today's show. Remember to join us weekly on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. for another episode of Legacy Markets. For now, we want to say good night and remember, together we create a legacy of a better world. Bye.